So we're getting another UFO file drop soon? Is that coming? And interdimensional beings. It's been talked about many times over. Rep Luna has talked about that significantly. She's been talking about it a lot of different times. When mentioned about other beings and other things, she always mentions interdimensional. Well, she does it again in this particular clip I'm about to show, also talking about potential new files. So let's play this clip, and we'll talk about it afterwards.
In the next, I think, week or so, there's going to be another tranche of documents, or footage. But it's one of those things that we won't tell you what to believe. You can look at it and review it for yourself. I think a lot of people realize, maybe we're not the only thing on this planet, but I don't like to speculate other than, our witnesses have told us some very interesting things. They don't use the word extraterrestrial, they use interdimensional, and then look for the stuff for yourself and make your own conclusions. In the next, I think, week or so, there's
See, I would like to follow up this because she's talked about this a few different times, right? The interdimensional side of things, and she's kind of mentioned David Grush and what David Grush said at the hearings in 2023 about how these things were interdimensional. I don't necessarily know if he factually said interdimensional as much as it was kind of like hinted at, or if she's referring to the fact that some of the things that have been said to her behind the scenes, or whatever it might be. That being said, I feel that's more realistic than light speed travel and outer space travel and all that. I mean, to me, when it comes to the idea of what, and I'm not going to pretend I know as much about quantum physics as I'd like to, but bending time and space and interdimensional stuff and those types of things and ocean travel, that to me just seems more realistic than tracking light speed and being able to travel the speed of light and all that. Now, as far as the other files go, and as far as a new dump of files go, she had also said at one point that we'd kind of have seen the meat of everything. So what's changed if that's the case? And if there are more files coming and more footage, is it the same type of thing? I think the answer to that is yes, meaning that it's just going to be a lot of blurry footage and a lot of, military type things. And there's the dot and it moved in a different direction and fascinating stuff, but nothing that it's like, yeah, wait till you see this one. Let's see anybody try to explain that away. I don't know if those files are coming, but the more conversations are coming from these types of things, people want to be, whatever the interview might be. It's like, when is the next crop of information? So if there is a dump, more things coming in and more people will talk about the files that come out. But the thing, to me, the thing that will really start to, I guess, change the news cycle, and what I mean by that is, if you notice, I've been following this topic long enough, even if you've been following it the last 3 years, and a lot of you here have been probably following it for 10 years, 15 years, 20 years, maybe more. But if you notice, especially over the last 3 years, the news cycle kind of goes, there's a lot of stuff coming out, a lot of stuff, a lot of motion in the UFO community, and then it just kind of goes kind of dormant, right? And or just a couple things here and there, and things might be coming up, maybe not. Who knows? There's a speech coming. There's this coming. Little tidbits of information and things that kind of drop in. The last big piece was there's going to be UFO files. Started with the Obama clip leading into Trump saying, we're going to make all the UFO files public, leading into when are those files coming? When are they coming? To that first dump, to all the other news, to David Grush. Those are kind of the big stories. To me, the next big story that would really start to get people talking again and going, oh my goodness, what does that mean? Is if the bill is passed to get whistleblowers protection. Because then that would mean, okay, well, when's the next hearing now that you have that clearance? When are you going to get Lukatsky? I know he's writing a book, or not, Lukatsky's not writing a book. What's his face? Stratton's writing a book. But Lukatsky, Stratton, all of them. Okay, Stratton's written the book. Now let him talk about these things under oath. Let's talk about all these things in general. Let's dive deep and give them protection in order to do so. because that's where the next big wave of information will come and more stories will come and people will be like, well, wait a minute. And then start to track down things where these things are from these whistleblowers if they're going to talk. And what happened to Matt Brown? Where's Matt Brown at? How come I'm so bummed. I'm so bummed that I had Burleson line. I had so many questions I was going to ask Burleson. I had so many questions that I was going to ask him, and I just didn't. It was right before everything kind of blew up, and then I was talking to his people, and then radio silent Magoo. Whatever. Shit happens. But nonetheless, what happened to Matt Brown? Where is he at? Is he ever going to testify? Can he testify? I don't know. But the next wave of materials, if they do drop in the next week, it's going to be interesting, especially if it's the same stuff. Because I think the problem is, especially when the first two dumps have not really been as mainstream as they should be. The 2017 article in the New York Times was way more mainstream than the stuff that's been covered or that's been released recently. Now, again, to the UFO community, sure, they know the things that are out there, but nothing to where it's been covered extensively. When you look at if you've seen Disclosure Day, and the things that come out at the end of Disclosure Day, and you look at how the news kind of covers events, right? Inside of that movie, you would hope that that's the way that news organizations would cover the news of extraterrestrials and everything too. However, I don't think that they would, because of AI and because of everything else too. I just don't know if people are going to feel like it's if it's actually validated. But to me, the fascinating thing has been, and why it's in the thumbnail and what it is, as far as the interdimensional travel, because if you believe in all of this stuff and the technology is capable of all of these particular things, what does that mean? Interdimensional travel. How do they do it? How long have they been doing it? How is it possible? Is that what the reverse engineering program is all about? Is to figure out how we can do that, how we're able to do that, why things are silent in general. Because if that is outside of the realm of, if people no longer think that that's science fiction, and we find out that that's actually possible, then that kind of blows the lid off of it. So you can understand why these people, the powers that be, whatever, want to keep everything so silent. I mean, if all this stuff tends to be true, interdimensional travel and all that, like, if that came out, right? Because there could be an argument of okay, disclosure is, here's this information. I think it was recently David Fravor said, why can't we be told these things? Why can't the world public really deserves to know these things? Like, why is that national security? Now, I happen to agree with him that everybody should know, but the answer of the national security side of it is, if you've been working on these things and working on the reverse engineering and just the information is, yes, we have been visited, and the way that we have been visited is through interdimensional travel. That's where these things are from. First of all, people trying to grasp that haven't been covering this, and it just randomly comes out of nowhere, or haven't been paying attention to this, or if there are people out there who just don't pay attention to the subject at all, go about their day, they don't even think that to them it's just science fiction. They don't know anything about and any hearings and nothing. They don't know about age of disclosure. They don't know nothing. They just think aliens. Funny. Now, if it was made the announcement of interdimensional travel and all those things, well, the next follow-up would be, if it turned out if part of the information was recovered craft and those things, then it would be, well, wait a minute, is that what we're trying to do? And then it's like, well, yeah, why would we want that information out there? Because people are going to start sniffing around our operation about what we're trying to do. And have they accomplished it? Have they been able to do it? Have they been able to maneuver vehicles and use anti-gravity and use these things to manipulate time and space? You talk to some people, and especially they believe that is true, that it already has happened. So there's a lot of information that can come out there. It really is. I don't know. It's still, it doesn't matter how disappointed I get with the fact of how slow this shit works. I cover it and I talk about it every day, or almost every day, because it's just so fascinating to me. The idea, I just think that it's not just a matter of anymore of sure I want to believe. It's just, there just seems to be so many things pointing in one direction that I just wish everyone would go in that direction. But I just don't know if as a society if we're able to do it. I don't know. Anyway, so that's all I got for you today. What do you think about the interdimensional travel? Do you think that this is something that is actually probably the most sound idea of what these things could be? Is it more of the ocean stuff? Is it outer space travel? I don't know. What do you guys think? I'd love to hear your thoughts. Make sure you click like, comment, subscribe. Thank you for being here as always. We'll see you back tomorrow.